This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation Pop Experience. Welcome to today's edition of the Movie Review of the Day. I am Andy Atherton, back here with you, getting you through another fun week. Today, I am doing another current movie, a movie that you can watch in your very own living room and on the Netflix streaming service. It is Train Dreams. Came out, towards the end of last year in 2025. It has since been nominated for 4 Academy Awards. Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Cinematography, and Best Original Song. So, I did enjoy this movie so much. It is a period piece, obviously. Chad Campbell had highly recommended it because he had seen it, I think, almost after it dropped on Netflix. And it is a very good movie. Joel Edgerton, who is the star of this, I really do enjoy him as an actor. I've seen plenty of stuff with him recently. There's a couple of shows on Apple he was on. Also starring in this movie is Clifton Collins Jr., Felicity Jones, Alfred Singh. Trying to look at William H. Macy has a nice role in this. Also, I believe it's I'm trying to remember her name. Let me call that up here. Kerry Condon. So she was in F1, I believe, as well as she is the voice of Friday, actually, in the Marvel movies with Tony Stark as his AI. So this movie, I really enjoyed it. It takes place over a 80-year period. So if you look at the kind of the summaries and the log lines here, Train Dreams is based on Dennis Johnson's beloved novella, is a moving portrait of Robert Grenier, a logger and railroad worker who leads a life of unexpected depth and beauty in the rapidly changing America of the early 20th century. Yeah, it spans like 80 years, this movie, which I was trying to figure out the timeline as well, because you do see quite a change in the world from where it starts to where it ends. Set against the rich forests and vistas of the Pacific Northwest in Washington State, we observe the often quiet ebbs and flows of the life of Robert Grenier, born a parent he can't recall and destined for a life of laborious early 20th century work, building railways and logging. He finds true meaning and purpose upon meeting Gladys. Robert and Gladys soon decide that they will build a quiet life together next to a beautiful and secluded stream, and they will have a child together. Due to the long absences of Robert for work and local work at the time not being lucrative enough, they both dream of using their modest land to build a sawmill and have a closer family life. But tragedy ensues while Robert is away working and saving money, and the struggle of meaning and solitude return as he waits for signs and searches for what that makes him whole again. This is a very good movie. This is, this is a Joel Edgerton. He is the main focus of this, because some of these characters come in and out. I will delve into that when I get into spoilers, because I do not want to spoil this movie, because it is I really, really enjoyed this movie. I think it's a wonderful story. It is filled with some tragedy and heartbreak, I will tell you that much. But it's a nice snapshot. And it was, I couldn't believe the span of time in this movie. Because I was, again, it was one of those, like, kind of working it out in my head, like, where are we actually set? What's going on here? And, he does such a great job. I mean, there are a lot of really good performances in this movie. Should he have been nominated for an Academy Award? I think maybe he probably just didn't make the cut. But if you're like me, I watched this before the award nominations came out, because, I do value Chad's opinion on movies, and he highly recommended it, so that's why I watched it. But I also am into lately a lot of shows set in that time. Like I really enjoyed 1883 and 1923. Those shows. I haven't watched Yellowstone, which is kind of funny. Also, I want to watch the show Abandoned on Netflix as well. So it's a time period, I guess, that I've been watching a lot on. So I was also interested into it, and the actors are all great. William H Macy, great actor. Felicity Jones, she's a wonderful actress, and I was curious to see how this movie played out. And also, it is it's beautifully shot. I mean, some of the landscapes and everything like that, because it's the Pacific Northwest, early 19th century, 20th century, 1900s. That was what I meant to say. And it, it's before it got all built up and yada yada yada. So, and he is born, I believe, in 1888. I think that's when the character is born, and he does live a pretty full life. All right, so that's about as far as I can go without spoilers, because I do really want to get into a few things. So, and I do not want to spoil this, like I said. I think people should see this movie. I think they will enjoy it. I don't think it's going to win Best Picture, but I'm glad it got nominated. So, all right, so we're getting into spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So, yes, this movie, you really feel bad for this guy, because there's a lot of tragedy that goes through. And people, look, the mortality rate, William H. Macy's character, literally a branch falls on him. I mean, it's a pretty heavy branch from a tree, and the character ends up dying. He's a pretty interesting character as he come in. You really feel bad when his wife and daughter die, as what we believe happens, because he comes back and finds his cabin burned down, and they're nowhere to be found. So you assume they died in the fire, and it's very tragic. Kate was his daughter. There are some interesting people that come in and out of his life. We have Apostle Frank, who's a logger who considered himself an expert on the Bible. It turned out that he had once killed an African American in a race-related incident. So, and then the dead man's brother then tracks him down in the jungle and shoots him dead. Then we get Arn Peoples, who is an explosive expert, and he was the oldest man on most of their jobs. Then William H. Macy, that's who he plays, is Arn Peoples. He said, used to say that cutting trees, which have been around for more than 500 years, upsets a man's soul. But Robert does return home at the end of every logging season to see his family. And Gladys ends up, does suggest that she and Kate go with him during logging season, but he knows that's a hard life. It's also very dangerous. Then Robert tries to take up work closer to home, but struggles in post-World War I economy. They build their lumber mill, and then he does return home and finds that a wildfire went through the whole town, and he keeps searching for them. I mean, you feel so bad for this guy. He does have a friend, Ignatius Jack, who's a local grocer, which he brought all the supplies from, and he helps him rebuild the cabin after he realizes that Gladys and Karen are not coming back. The cabin, it's beautiful. He then, buys a horse and a cart. He tries to start a living as a freighter, eventually starts moving people in his wagon, taking a job as a carriage driver. Then he meets Claire, who I thought they were going to have a romantic relationship, and they never end up do. That's Kerry Condon. I really love when she shows up, because you get to see some really great shots, and she's a wonderful actress too. She is kind of I was hoping for a romance, but I guess he never ends up remarrying. He continues to walk through the woods, though believing he can find the spirits of his wife and daughter sometimes, and he hopes not to drive them away. And then he believes he sees an injured Kate apparently return to the cabin. She's grown up. He tends to her wounds, but after a night of dreams, he awakens to no sign she was ever there. He determines to keep living in the cabin in case she ever returns. The year goes by, and he ages and he gets weathered. He witnesses John Glenn's flight into space on television, and then he decides to go on a biplane. the sounds of people, places back through his life, and then he ends up dying in his sleep in November of 1968. I mean, that is an incredible lifespan. It was one of those things like people say, talk to older people, see what they've seen. You could just imagine how much the world changes between those times. I mean, it's an incredible time to be alive, because could you imagine what you've seen from, look, memories, probably from the mid 1890s. Maybe that's as far back as you will remember. But think about what happened between 1888 and 1968, right? We had, the world wars. We had, we had the stock market crash. We had the invention of radio and television and all these other things that have happened. Planes, were invented, and commercial airlines and roads and cars and all these other things. I mean, what this man saw throughout his life is incredible. And I think that's really what I took most from the story, is seeing this life and this guy who was just dedicated, and he did whatever he could. And unfortunately, tragedy happened back then a lot more often than it does today, although tragedy happens in different ways today. But it was, I don't know, it was one of those, like, I'm not a big reader. Right, I do read some things. I go to the city once a month for work, so I have a long train ride. So I read my Kindle, but I mostly read things like right now I'm reading the Imagineering story, although I've seen the documentary. I'm reading the book, which dives a little deeper into it. That's the kind of stuff I read. But this is something like maybe I would read it, because it sounds like it would be an interesting story and pictures in your head. But again, I highly recommend this. You try to watch it before the Oscars. If not, watch it when you watch it. Because Joel Edgerton does a great job, and just the span of time between that this movie lasts is like watching like all the changes go through, and how does somebody deal with that and deal with all the tragedy this guy has felt in his life. I mean, he lost, friends, mentors, his wife, his daughter. He lives a very solitary life for a lot of this movie. So you have to feel for him, but also to be able to carry a film by yourself is quite a feat as an actor, and I think Joel Edgerton does a great job. All right, so we got more coming to you. I hope you're enjoying this series, and please see Train Dreams. All right, I'm Andy Atherton. Hope you guys have a good day, and it continues to be that way. All right, we'll see you later.
Space that connects